Well, hello and welcome to the Not Alone podcast. So great to see you and to talk to you. I'm Brandon Pickett once again, and we always try to find different people to talk with that can really impact your life, just regularly impact it. But what about in ministry and in the day-to-day things of ministry? And I cannot wait to talk to these two guys who have so much experience in the area of worship and music. And welcome, Charles Billingsley and Andy Chrisman. Good to see you guys.
What's up, man?
Great to be with you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, Charles, of course, we get a chance to see you a little bit more than Andy. Tell us what's going on with you lately. Our audience, of course, a lot of different SBC of Virginia folks and people who listen to Not Alone. But what is going on with you this year in 2026?
Oh, we're still running around quite a bit doing stuff for churches and conferences. Women of Joy season kicks up here in a few weeks, and that's always a blast, and it's a lot of craziness and fun. But working on a new album, actually.
Yeah.
It's an album that's really geared towards choirs and orchestras. And so, and Andy, you'll appreciate this. We're doing a bunch of remakes of a bunch of songs that were sort of really influential in my life growing up. So we got things like a new arrangement of His Strength is Perfect.
Oh, man.
I did a remake of Petra's Grave Robber. Do you remember that song?
Yeah, classic.
Got a new arrangement of that. Well, it did a remake of Michael English's song Heaven. Do you remember that song?
Yeah, sure do.
Stuff like that I really loved growing up. In my early 90s, mid 80s days. But it's all geared for choir and orchestra, so that's kind of cool.
That's so cool.
Speaking of the 90s, that's when I was first introduced to For Him and Andy Chrisman. So Andy, you're still trucking. So give us a little update about what's been going on with you.
Yeah, man. I still lead worship here at my church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a church on the move about every other weekend. And then I sing and perform and lead worship and do mentoring and coaching and consulting at churches across the country, but I also have a podcast that Charles has been on called 1 Degree of Andy. We're in our 4th season now on the Access More Network, which is owned by K-Love. So we've just got a lot of great guests every single week from that era. You mentioned it, Charles, that era of that 90s era of Christian music, which is kind of like the golden age, I think, between, the 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Just had like, as we're recording this, John James, the original lead singer of the Newsboys, is on story for about 90 minutes. It's just wild, just the detail you hear that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. I've got a radio show called Worship with Andy Chrisman that's on nationally syndicated across the country and in several countries. And I just do a lot of stuff, lots of irons in the fire, but it keeps me going. A grandfather of 5, so I gotta keep in shape, picking those kids up and throwing them around all the time.
Yeah, you do. And let's go back a little bit in the Wayback Machine here, and let's ask about, because you started in Truth, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, back in 1980. Wow, 6. Was it 87? No, 1987. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, 1987. Charles was just getting out of 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. No,
I wish.
He talks about these songs he's redoing that he grew up with, and I'm like, that's my era, actually. You just
Yeah.
grow up.
Well,
come on, man.
I almost wanted to do a remake of Where There Is Fate, but I was like, there's no way I could even attempt to.
He's right for a remake.
To handle your vocal, man.
Oh man, it's a classic though.
It is a classic, man.
You started in 87 with Truth. You were with them for a while with Roger Breland. In fact, when I started at Liberty, that was the year I started at Liberty in the fall of 87. It's one of the first great concerts I saw was Truth in concert there in the old, it used to be called the Schilling Center at Liberty back in the day. And so that you were with them until when?
Well, so that's when I met Mark Harris, Kurt Sullivan, and Marty McGehee, who would eventually we'd become For Him. So we all met at some point in 1987 when all 4 of us were in the group. And then we did about 3.5 years of touring in Truth. And Charles, you'll know this. That's about 1,000 shows in
Oh, yeah,
years.
easily.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we had
And
1,000.
7 bus breakdowns.
Yes, exactly. And about 1,200 missed paychecks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had quite a career under our belt just in those 3.5 years of Truth before we set out with For Him. And then For Him, our first year, Charles, you already mentioned it, our song Where There's Faith, it released in, I believe, April of 1990. And then we were kind of off and running. Jumped off the Truth bus, jumped on our own junkie bus, and off we went.
And what a
And you
first
were
song to start your career with. I mean,
Yeah. You know, it's a song nobody wanted to do. There's again, I'll plug my podcast here, 1 Degree of Andy, which you can find at andychrisman.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can hear my taglines there. But I sat down with the writer of that song, Billy Simon, who didn't want to write it. He was forced to write it by his publisher as a Sandy Patty cut, and he didn't like it, and it kind of floated around, publishing houses and got pitched for a couple of years until our guy Andy Ivy found it and was like, "You guys are doing it," and we didn't like it either. So we ended up recording it, and it became a hit, and we were off and running with it. Yeah, just a wild
Yeah.
story.
What were you gonna say, Charles?
I was just going to say that there's so many songs like that. Like when you hear Toto talking about their song Africa,
Mm-hmm.
which, was a kind of a tiny little mega hit. I mean, it's like there's a lot of songs like that come down the pike that even Phillips, Craig and Dean, they gave me a song that they didn't want to record called In the Room. And to this night, I still use that often at the end of concerts. It's funny how that stuff works that way.
Well, I think, when you talk about it from a Christian's perspective, I can't speak to Toto, but, from as someone who works in the kingdom of God, I believe God sets aside things for you. Like, I believe that song was hidden for us, or that, it was rejected, by these other artists because it was on hold for us. We were the ones that were supposed to sing it. And I mean, again, I mentioned my podcast. I had Billy Simon, the writer, on last season, and he tells the story of how that song 40 years later healed his life. He didn't want to write it, but then he hears it again in a crazy situation, which I won't give that away, but he hears it in a crazy situation and he goes, "I realize now that I wrote that song out of spite 40 years ago because I needed it to heal my life today." And you just see God in all of it. If you stick around long enough, you don't give up, you see these God stories just bubble to the surface all over the place.
So sticking around, not giving up. That was you guys with For Him. You were around for a little while.
We were, yeah. We
Tell
were.
me about that. I mean, you were going for you had some great hits.
Well, we were together 20, right at 20 years. Yeah, as For Him. And
It's like
yeah.
that's like dog years, man. That's like 100 in music.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's amazing to have the same 4 guys stick together for that amount of time. That's the real miracle. And we just felt God knitted us together early on, and we had our differences, and I think you got to have some tension to actually make great art, and that fueled us as well. But today we're still like brothers. I can get on the phone with any of those guys and have a 2-hour conversation, and it's always fun to get back together with them. So yeah, we had a really good run. God was good to us, and it's fun to look back and hear those songs now. And as a grandpa now, hearing future generations, it takes on such a different meaning in my life.
No kidding.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions for both of you about worship and today's worship, but I want to hear a little, maybe an anecdote or something from each of you about being in the industry, something that would be kind of a cool little story that no one would know, and you can reveal it here on this podcast.
Wow.
Andy or Charles, you guys get to go first, and you can withhold the names to protect the innocent. So if you want to do that,
Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. Well, I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. We had a producer. I'll go and tell you his name, Peter Wolf, who was a big '90s and early 2000s producer. He produced some big hits for Heart and Starship, and in fact, he has 2 of the most hated songs in the history of rock music: "We Built This City" and Everybody Wang Chung Tonight. Like they always come up on,
Oh,
the worst rock songs of all time,
everybody went
top 5.
to name.
Yeah. But you know what? They stuck around and they were big hits. So anyway, we
Yeah.
we had a great idea because we loved the sound that he created for um the do you remember the group Go West?
Yeah.
I'll get over you. I know I will. Yeah. And we love that sound. Like that's a sound that we want to try and capture. So we hired him and we did a song called Between You and Me. And in the song, we talk, it's kind of ambiguous. Is it a love song, or is it about God? Is it a love song? Is it about God? Get to the end. And the final line is Jesus is between you and me. And that's what makes us right with God. And as we were recording the song, he said, if you'll just change that lyric from Jesus to love, then this is a pop hit and we'll get a lot more plays and you'll make a lot more money.
Hmm.
And we had to have a little huddle and just go, what do we do here? Like, we believe him. Like this guy, top of the charts all the time in pop music. And we didn't have to talk long though, because we were like, no, the song's about Jesus and that's what our message is. We don't do love songs. We don't do love songs for, we love our wives, but that wasn't what our calling was. We sing about the gospel of Christ. And so that was one of those lines in the sand. And Mark Harris will tell you that was the impetus for him writing For Future Generations. I won't bend and I won't break. I won't water down my faith. I won't compromise in a world of desperation. So that's where that song got its start, was because of that conversation with Peter Wolf. And now Peter is a born again Christian. He and his wife, they are super, super just gracious in their testimony. And, it's really cool to see how God used all of that.
Wow. That's great
pretty
insight. That is cool. I'm going to listen to that a little differently now for hearing that.
Yeah.
Charles, what about you?
Well, we've had all kinds of crazy things happen, but I was just talking to the students at Liberty this morning, actually, about just the tension that I always felt between being a Christian music person and this calling to ministry, and I could cite some examples, but I don't really feel like I need to, except for one moment. In fact, you were there, Andy. It was a deal we were doing at the Ryman for the Dove Awards, and we were playing, you were playing, and I just remember we went through this whole ordeal with rehearsals and this big drum breakdown with this song we had called My Heart Is Already There, and it had been a #1 hit and everything. And we were all doing our thing, and we were well rehearsed, and you're in the hotel room getting all your hair done and everything's all perfect. And we finished that moment and it's good, everything's powerful, big cheer from the crowd. But then Rich Mullins walks up on the stage in ratty jeans and a t-shirt and no shoes on and starts playing Our God Is an Awesome God. And suddenly there was a palpable difference in the room.
Yes, I remember.
You remember that moment?
I sure do.
Everybody in the room felt that moment. And I was telling the kids this morning at Liberty, I was like, it was the beginning of the end for me in New Song, because I realized I'm hungry for those moments more. And it's not that New Song was a bad experience or that we weren't doing things to glorify the Lord. We were having a lot of people saved in our concert. I was just tired of trying to manage that tension between being a Christian music star and being a worship leader. And that's the day I just decided to go more the route of worship leading in local churches.
Can I jump in here and add to that story? Because that was significant in my life as well. Because I sat by Rich on stage. Because remember, they didn't introduce us. It's like, where you are in the order where all the artists are sitting on stage, and then who you're up next after, and you're just going to get up and go do your song. Nobody's going to introduce you. And I remember Rich didn't show up for rehearsal. In fact, Rich
No.
didn't sit down on stage until almost time for him to go up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm a little self-righteous, just going, man,
Yeah.
like, what's your deal?
Yeah. Who is
We
this?
are all here early and we
Yeah.
rehearsed and we,
Yeah.
and you just kind of walk in like,
Oh, got just the right outfits on.
exactly, And then he gets up and plays Awesome God, and the spirit changes in the room. And it convicted me. And God was already speaking to me about the artists returning to the church, and I
Mhm.
know you're a big part of that as well. And so, late 90s, early 2000s, I really believe God was calling the Christian artists back to their first love, which was leading worship in their local churches. And man, we saw an explosion after that, didn't we?
We sure did. And it wasn't long after that that Rich passed away.
That's right.
Uh, but yeah, I can't believe you remember that moment. I thought I might be the only one, but no, it was definitely a turning point in my life. Mm.
You talk about I was just thinking there's artists who sing Christian music, and then there's Christian music artists who sing for the Lord. I don't mean to disparage anybody because I don't know, but is there a difference because you guys have been doing this for decades now, and we have tons of young people who wanna get into the industry. They wanna get on top 40, they wanna get known. What's the difference? I just want you guys to comment on that. Is there a difference, and what is the difference?
Go ahead,
Andy?
Ann.
Wow. I kind of fall in the middle on this. I think it's both. I think you can. I believe God's a God of yes. Does God hate sin? Yes. Does He love the sinner? Yes. Does God have a plan for our lives? Yes. But does He give us free will? Yes, He does. We're free to do whatever we choose to do. And I think the same can be true in music. And I've been on both sides of this. And I believe that God is pleased with us when we sing great songs about our faith and we go out on tour and we proclaim His name. I believe that God's pleased with us when we sing songs about our life and our family and our relationships with our spouses, and not necessarily proclaim the gospel through it, but we live a holy, separate life, in the environment that we're in, and we don't compromise our beliefs. That doesn't negate the fact that He also calls us to worship Him and to give all the glory to Him, and to be a part of a local church and to serve. I don't think you have to choose. I think that you can do both. I don't look I don't look differently at someone that is a secular artist or maybe a Christian who sings secular music. I'm not going to judge them until I see them in their personal life and their and
Mhm.
and walk with them and see what they're up against and how they respond to the opportunities around them. Because we both know, Charles, you and I both know this, there are people in worship ministry who don't live an exemplary life, that are hiding stuff behind the scenes, that, just because they're on a church platform and leading worship music doesn't mean they have their life together. So
Mhm.
I actually think both. I think both are okay as long as you're connected to the heart of God, that you call Jesus your Lord, and that you're full of the Holy Spirit and let Him
Mhm.
guide you where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, I'm 100% in favor of strong believers moving outside the genre of just Christian music. I think we need them. I think we need Christians in jazz and country and pop and everywhere else. The question is, okay, is your lifestyle off stage going to match whatever persona it is that you're trying to portray on stage? And like Andy said, we have a lot of that happening on regular church platforms, let alone artists who are well known. But I have a great deal of respect for artists who live in other genres who are solid as a rock believers. In fact, Brandon, we've dabbled in those other genres in the light jazz and some of the classical world, just simply because I agree with Andy. Things like love and kindness and peace and joy, those are all authored by God. God's the author of all that. So if I can sing a song about love that is not racy or sexual in nature, but celebrates the beauty of love, I feel like I can glorify God in the process of that. At the same time, to me, what it comes down to really is the motive of my heart. What am I trying to do here? Is it all about just me trying to create accolades for myself, or actually am I trying to use the avenue of singing about love to point people to the author behind all of that, the one who is love, and the embodiment of it himself? And so, to me, it's a lot more about motive than it is about, the platform that you're standing on.
Yeah. I was thinking of the guy that you had on the podcast, your podcast, Charles, called the Charles Billingsley Podcast, by the way. And you had him. He's the keyboard player for Luke Bryan, who you've known for
Oh, yes.
years. Who's
Oh,
what a
Andy
what
knows
a
him too, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
what a testimony he has of a guy who's living solid Christian life, but is in front of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people every
Mhm.
week.
Yeah, in fact, there's several believers in Luke's band, and it's pretty cool because when the show's over, they all go hang out and drink Diet Coke and they're just normal guys, but having been through all the trappings of that world in their prior lives, now they've given their life to Christ, and they're still in that world, but now they're making a difference in it for the kingdom, and I think it's pretty cool.
So how do let's start with Andy on this one. How do you started in the 90s, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, started there. But yet you're still relevant today. You're still coaching artists. The young artists that we hear on The Message and on K-Love, you're coaching some of these. How do you stay current and relative no matter what the decade?
I think relevance, I don't know about that word anymore because I
Mm.
don't think I am relevant. I think I'm more old school than I am relevant. But I also believe that not everything in the past is we should toss. I mean, we're all standing on the shoulders of the people who came before us. So I feel like what I have are strong shoulders. And if you can learn from my past and my experiences and all of the mistakes that I've made, well, then you're going to go through the same things. I mean, we look at history. History just keeps repeating itself. We're not anywhere new in this country. The junk that's going on the social landscape is not new to the world. It was happening in biblical times as well, and all through history. We're just repeating the same things over and over again, all in search of peace and security in our lives, which we can only find through Christ. So to be relevant, yeah, I mean, that's relevant. Build your life on Christ, work hard. A friend of mine wrote a song that I loved the other day that just talks about the beauty of working hard.
Mm.
My wife tells me all the time when she looks at my schedule and she goes, "Whew, you're busy this week, but you know what? God loves a working man." I'm I'm like,
I love
work,
that.
work and be fruitful.
I love it.
Don't deny that. So I think that you know, if we want to say the word relevant, I do try to listen to all the music that comes out. I try and stay up with all the genres that are coming out. It's impossible now because
Mhm.
it's too much. My daughter sends me a new playlist every week of all the stuff she's listening to, and she's in her 30s and she thinks she's getting old. So as I'm working with some of these younger artists now, I know what they're listening to, but I'm also like, but you know what? Go back and listen to a little Annie Lennox and Celine Dion and some Whitney Houston and listen to some Toto and some of the male artists that I work with. Go listen to some Kenny Loggins and some Michael McDonald and let me put you a yacht rock list together
Mhm.
because it's still so good. It's still so fresh. And let's go back and listen to some Russ Taff and some Charles Billingsley and some Michael English and some Clay Cross and some of these really great vocalists who knew how to open it up.
Mhm.
Can we do that again? I think that's relevant. I think let's add. Let's don't forget what came before. And to me, that's what's relevant is let's do it all. Everything matters.
Nice.
Mhm.
Charles, I think that's your philosophy, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I agree with Andy on the word relevant, but I think one of the advantages that I have being in this town is that I'm around college students all the time, and so they keep me young, and they're the ones that introduce songs to me that I would have never listened to before, or artists. And so I'm always interested to hear and see new artists and what they have to offer. But in the end, I usually revert back to just doing what I do, you know. but if I'm working with a new artist, I would do the same exact approach that Andy uses, and that is, yeah, let's listen to the new stuff, but let me throw a few old guys at you too, so you can hear some things about their singing that you may never consider before.
Mm, mm. So, yeah, and Charles, you have the chance many different weeks throughout every semester at Liberty to talk to college students, to be to lecture, to teach. And Andy, I know you're working with some current contemporary singers right now. Can you list a couple of these that you're able to work with?
Yeah, I've worked with Emerson Day quite a bit over the last few years. She's got one of the best pure country voices that I haven't heard in Christian music in I don't know, maybe since Kim Hill. Just kind of that big, open, soulful country voice. I think I would hitch my wagon to what she's doing. I mean, that girl. She gets the right opportunities, she's going to be in front of a lot of people. So I love what she's doing. Megan Woods, I had the opportunity to work with her for a couple of years to kind of get her ready to go into her new album, and she's having some great success. Seth Schluter, I got a chance to work with him
Yeah.
for about 6 months, and all these people can sing, you know, but what they don't. A lot of what I can bring to the table with these artists is, hey, here's what it's going to be like, right? You can sing now, but what's going to happen when you get on stage in front of, 5, 10,000 people, and you got to bring it night after night after night? What's it going to be like when you get in the studio and you're just worn out emotionally and physically? You got 2 more tracks to cut. How are you going to do this? So, and that's a lot of the stuff we work on is our mental game. And then, you know, really focusing on different parts of our vocal that we can strengthen without killing ourselves. And so, for me, I'll be 60 here really quickly, and I still have to work. I put all the work in just to keep my voice strong and fresh and go in the right direction. And that's, we mentioned it earlier, how many shows we did in our 20s, you know,
Mm.
that doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's out there doing 350 shows a year, night after night after night. Those opportunities don't exist like they used to. So how do we get artists, pushed the right direction so that they're strong and can go the long haul? And so I feel like that's part of my calling right now, is just, I don't know, walk alongside some of these young artists that are just starting their career and give them as much information as they can as they start their journey.
Yeah, and me too. When I'm talking, and I work with a lot of other people that are on the road as artists. I work with a lot of kids who are up and coming, going to graduate and go do this. My big thing is, you know, it's yes, you can sing great, but can you communicate? Because there's a lot of great talent out there that, boy, you just wanted to, the song ends and you're like, oh, please keep singing because your talking is scaring me to death. Things like that. It's like, so I work with a lot of, how can you transition? How can you formulate moments in a concert? How can you create, if you're given an hour and a half to stand on a platform, how are you going to hold that audience's attention for an hour and a half and keep them engaged? Things like that are to me are what separate a good singer and a great artist.
Yeah. I need to take
And
that class.
yeah.
Well, I tell you what, if you take mine, I'm taking yours. 'Cause
Deal.
you can teach me to be a better singer.
And that's a great transition, because we've got both of you guys coming to the Worship and Technology Conference May 29th and 30th at Liberty University. And Charles, you're doing a master class on Friday about this.
I guess
And
I'm not really a master in anything, but I'm going to give my best shot.
we're going to call it a master class. And then it just means it's longer than a normal class. That's what that means.
Well, I can talk forever.
Okay. And then Andy, you're the main speaker. You're doing breakouts on Saturday. So you know what? It works out. You can take each other's classes then.
That's right.
Come
We
on.
will. I'll be there taking notes, bro.
Yes,
So
I love it.
So I'll do a little shameless plug. So go to worshiptechnology.net and sign up. It's an amazing deal as well. And guys like this, we're going to have a guy talking about artificial intelligence in ministry, and he's
Wow.
from George Lucas and Pixar. He does it for that. We've got the worship leader and MD from Elevation Church. He's going to be there, LJ. So we got some great guys. And I'm going to wrap this up here and just ask really for those people who are listening who are in worship ministry, who lead a worship team or praise team or choirs or orchestra, whatever. Charles, this has been your life for more than 30 years. How can you stay faithful in this and not get exhausted and want to throw in the towel? How do you keep going?
Well, you got to stay close and you got to stay clean. I mean, if you're not staying close to Jesus and keeping your life clean with, pure motives and a heart that honors Him and faithful to your family and the basic stuff, then you're gonna have a hard time doing this for very long.
And we need to get back to the
For-
basics of life.
yeah. Yeah. I see what you did there for not just this generation but future ones. But honestly, it that's the secret to staying rejuvenated and and keeping your eye on the ball and keeping faithful throughout the decades of doing this. You staying close to Jesus is the secret to it all. If you don't do that, then you're not going to do well or even enjoy what you're doing for long.
Andy, what
In
about
this
you?
circle anyway.
Andy, you've been doing this as well, and you're still doing it, still being faithful. I just know my background, well, when I started was in television. I was a news anchor, and it wasn't in big markets, but smaller markets. When it was all about me, man, I don't think God was pleased one bit, and it messed up my life, messed up my family. I wasn't the husband or father I should be because it was all about me. And the Lord has had to break me and take me from thinking about even in ministry. If it's all about my ministry, it's not right. So how do you fight against that and keep your eyes on on the right things instead of my ministry and my goals and my plans?
Yeah. I just try to live palms up. You can't really see it here. My palms are up. I'm going, Lord, what do you want? Like, you gave me this voice. You gave me the ability to do what I do. Obviously, I put the hard work into it. That's the partnership. But obviously, you have a plan for me. So what do you want? Instead of me, I've never been one of those guys that's planned my life out 10, 15 years down the road. I'm just like, where do you want me to tomorrow, Lord? Where do you want me this year? I'm available. So it keeps me from personally building my kingdoms and setting up my kingdom in a certain place. I think a lot of worship pastors get caught doing that, is building their kingdom inside someone else's ministry. And so, that for me, I've always just been, Lord, if you don't want me here, move me. This is not mine. I'm just here for the time that you, and that may be 20 years, it may be 30 years, but it could be for a short season. So I'm always make myself available because this is not mine to begin with. I'm going to give it all back to you anyway. So I would rather you tell me what to do and I'll be available for that. But God will also give me, he'll give me ideas and direction to go. And I'll tell you this, for worship pastors, if you're getting tired or if you feel like the joy's gone out of what you're doing, just pinch yourself every now and then that you get to do this. Like, come on, man. We get to make music for the Lord on a stage and with a microphone and instruments. I mean, what a
And get paid for it.
and get paid for it for the most part. Like, we get to do this. Rediscover your love for music. You talked about earlier being relevant. That's one of the things that I feel like has kept me relevant is I just continue to love music. I continue to go to concerts. I continue to be a part of new music creation. I see the music in younger worship leaders and younger people who are making their way into the music ministry, and I celebrate that with them. Pinch yourself every now and then, bring yourself back to reality. Like, look what you get to do. every single weekend. It's a real blessing, and you should be honored that God gave you this gift, and then He gave you a place to be able to use it.
That's fantastic. And it's funny that you say that because Charles and I get to work together on certain different things with his ministry, and every so often he'll look at me and he'll say, "Hey, this is cool that people still want me to come and and sing." And I look at him like, "Why wouldn't they?" But I love that he's by the way, he's serious. He really
Yeah. You have to have it. Don't ever lose that.
I mean, I didn't know how long I'd get to do this, but 33 years later, still doing it. I just feel so blessed and honored to get to do this still. And I know this, God uses me most when I'm serving and I'm singing and I'm ministering from a position of brokenness. And so I just try to stay broken as much as I can. And that takes time with the Lord and just a constant reminder of how inadequate ultimately we all are, because truthfully, He could use anybody.
That's right.
I'm just thankful He uses me.
way to close this. And thank you guys both. I just want to make sure that people know how to stay in touch with you. So Andy, your website, probably pretty easy.
Pretty easy, andychrisman.com.
Charles?
Pretty easy, charlesbillingsley.com.
Okay. I don't have brandonpickett.com, but we do want to make sure that you guys stay in touch. Charles, I think your calendar's there for where you're going to be in case people want to see you in person. But also anything else to wrap up with, Charles?
No, just thankful to be a part of this conference, and really thrilled that Andy's going to be there with us, and looking forward to it. But I would say, if you're a worship pastor, whatever, encourage as many people as you can to join this, and it's not just your singers and your players, but your tech people, your volunteers, because this is actually a very well-rounded, very informative conference. It's worth going to.
Hey, that's great. And that's worshiptechnology.net, and you can sign up today. Hey, guys, thanks so much for joining us. It has been fantastic to catch up with you. I can't wait to see you in May.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. See you soon, Andy.
Love you, Chuck.
Love you too, buddy.